Hi guys, I'm Brooke and welcome to my channel. If you haven't been here before, please subscribe, comment, like, do all the things. So recently I put up a story on my Instagram asking y'all to ask me questions about my amputation and life afterwards and just any general questions y'all had. And I got so many questions, so thank you for that. Let's just dive right in and go over them. Someone said, how did it happen? So this is a good one to start with. I went to the hospital and I was like, okay, my foot's bothering me. It's been bothering me for a while. They did lots of tests. They found blood clots in my arteries that led to my foot. I had some up in my hip that blood had found a way to go around and get to its spot. But in my ankle, blood was not flowing through there anymore, and that was what was causing me all the pain when I was cheering or even just laying in bed at night. My first surgery, they tried to clean up the blood clots. That failed. My second surgery, they tried to harvest a vein from my leg, from the side of my leg. They took it out and they were going to replace it and try to make it an artery. And that failed. And then after that, I was experiencing a lot of swelling, which is something called compartment syndrome. And so they ended up performing a fasciotomy, and they had a specialist go through and try to clean out every single one of the little veins in my feet. After the third surgery, those were all the first 3 days in the hospital all in a row, it was pretty much evident that I was going to lose my foot because those had all failed. They kept trying. They used heating blankets, blood thinners to try to get something to work. On the 21st of March, I did end up having the amputation. The Friday after that, they still were waiting for some more swelling to go down, so they closed up the fasciotomy wound. And then I went home from the hospital that next Monday. A month later, after going home from the hospital, some of my stitches had opened up, and so that's when I had my sixth surgery. In total, I had 6 surgeries, 5 in the hospital, 3 to save my foot, but none of them ended up working out. So it ended up being God's plan for me to deal with this amputation. The main reason it happened was I had an arterial blood clot, which never happens for someone my age. It's rare. It's normally for older people. Amputations normally happen to older people with diabetes, cancer, or trauma, and I was none of those. I was in arterial blood clot. Did you ever experience phantom pain? So phantom pain is this sensation in which people who have amputations feel the limb even after it's gone. So it will either feel like it's itching or tickling, or sometimes they'll feel pain. And it's a big problem for people who deal with trauma, like a car wreck. I, however, did not deal with phantom pain that much because I had lost feeling in my leg for about a week or 2 before the surgery, so it didn't change much for it not to be there. I just still didn't feel it. So I was lucky in that. Also, my doctor, she went back and traced every single one of the nerves and numbed it, which someone who has trauma, they want to have someone do that for them. So I was lucky in that sense, and I did not experience much phantom pain at all, except for a couple like little sessions where I thought people were stepping on my toes or something like that. Next one is, how long was your foot sore for? I started experiencing pain pretty early on into February in my left glute, and I thought that I had pulled a muscle at cheer because I'm a cheerleader. I've always been hard on my body. That's part of tumbling. So you pull muscles all the time in cheer, and I didn't think about it much. I was just like, oh, stretch it out, give it some time, it'll go away. But then it slowly started to hurt farther down my leg, like my thigh hurt for a week or 2, and then my calf hurt for a week or 2, and then my foot hurt like a lot. I was icing my ankles. Little did I know that didn't help at all. I didn't quite know what the problem was. It was about a month before I went to hospital I was dealing with this, especially during night. The pain was so hard. It did hurt for quite a while before I ended up going to the hospital, and that ended up not being good for me. I should have gone to the hospital sooner, but I just thought it would go away, and it ended up being something much more serious. Our next one is, did you ever get your prosthetic? No, not yet. I was supposed to get my prosthetic last Friday. But there were some complications, some of my stitches busted open, so I had to go into surgery on Friday, and they had to close up some more stitches and take out the other ones, and so I ended up having that, so I won't have my prosthetic for another 2 or 3 weeks, which has really been frustrating for me. I am not very good with sitting still all the time, and my parents laugh at me because I'm like doing cartwheels on one foot and stuff just because I want to be moving again. And I've been swimming, just anything that I can do to get moving. I've been going to the gym, but hopefully I will have my prosthetic, and the first one I get will be a plastic starter foot, so it'll be one that I'll have for about a month just to get used to walking on a prosthetic. And I won't be able to tumble on that one, but I will start to stunt, get back into stunting and just moving around and doing basic life things. After that, I will get 2 special feet, and one will be an everyday foot that I will go to school in, walk around the house in, and then I will have a specialized cheer foot that my GoFundMe has raised money for, and that will be for tumbling, competing, cheer practices, so that I can get back to doing the sport that I love. So I'm really excited that it worked out that they could make me a specialized prosthetic foot to cheer in. When you get your prosthetic, will you think about going back to Champion and try out for a team? So for the past 5 years, I have cheered at Champion Cheer All-Stars. I've been on several of their teams in the last 2 years. I was on Heat, which is our small senior 6, and I've spent a lot of hours at the gym trying to get up to where I was, and I finally earned my spot on our highest level team. So when I get my prosthetic, I will be going back to Champion. I've already talked with the coaches, they have a spot for me there, and I will be just stunting at first, and then hopefully if I can get my tumbling pass back, when I get my prosthetic, I'll be tumbling too. But I do have plans to cheer at Champion at my school, and in college, hopefully. I'm still gonna try out for college cheer. I'm not gonna let this stop my dreams at all. What was it like being in the hospital for so long? When I first went to the hospital, my mom had told me to pack a bag just in case we had to spend a night there, and I was like, I don't think we'll spend a night there. So I like threw a toothbrush and a t-shirt in a bag, and we went to the hospital, and I ended up not coming home for a month, which was not at all what I was prepared for. It was exactly a month between when I was admitted, February 27th, and when I was able to go home on March 27th. And so I was in ICU for the first 3 weeks, and then I got moved to the floor for like the last week or so. It was really rough, I'm not gonna lie. I wanted to get out of the hospital. I wanted to eat regular food, sleep in my own bed, because the hospital bed, everyone came and said it was comfortable, but after like the first 3 or 4 days, it starts to be the most uncomfortable thing ever. And I wanted to see my friends again. I wanted to go back to school. I didn't want to lay around in a hospital bed all day because I wasn't living life. But I did get lucky with some of my doctors and my nurses. There was a PA. Like, I had some great people that God blessed me with. I got good nurses that I still talk to and am friends with. I got a PA that is like my second mom now. Like, I was really blessed with the people that God put in my life. The hospital would have been way worse if I didn't have my family. My mom or my dad slept on a chair with me every night, and it was rough, but I had the best people that I possibly could have had there, and I will forever be thankful for that. What was your reaction when you found out what the soreness was? How did you respond? So I was pretty out of it the first few weeks at the hospital, and I remember doctors and nurses and stuff, they came in regularly to do tests on my foot to try to find like a pulse and stuff. And one doctor that I hadn't seen before, he came in and he like checked up. They used this little like machine to like check the pulse, and he shook his head, and then he asked to talk to my parents in the hallway. After a little while, my mom and dad came back in, and they walked up to me, and I could tell that my mom had been crying, and I was like, we pretty much all knew where it was heading, even though we didn't want to say it, we didn't want to believe it. I looked at her and I was like, this is it, I'm gonna lose my foot. And she was like, yeah. And we both cried, and it was rough. And I don't think I fully accepted it at first. I didn't really believe that it was gonna happen. I was like, oh yeah, sure, they think this is gonna happen, but it's all gonna end up okay. So it took me a while to fully understand what was happening, and I still understand more every day as I realize how life's gonna be different, and how everything that I have planned for my future isn't gonna look the way that I thought it would. So I'm just still coming to terms with that. But I do believe that God has a plan for me, and that's what kept me going in the hospital, is that this was God's plan for me, that He had always known this was going to happen. This wasn't a surprise to Him, and this is what He had made me for, to go through His plan, and this was part of it. And I may not know exactly why, but I will continue to trust in Him and let Him guide me throughout all of this. What colleges are you looking to cheer at? So I have been going to college cheer clinics. I've been cheering for a long time. It's a sport I love, and I definitely want to cheer in college. And in the hospital, when I found out the amputation was supposed to happen, I didn't know if that would be a possibility. I do now still have the goal of trying out, and I know it's not a for sure that I would make it, but I would definitely try my hardest and let God's plan work out. But I am going to try out at the schools that I apply to. Right now, the ones at the top of my list are UT, OU, and Baylor. And I have been to cheer clinics at UT and Baylor, and I'm going to one in OU in June. So I don't know if they'll be tumbling it on my prosthetic, but I'm going there. So if y'all have anything to say about those schools or their cheer programs, then I'd love to hear about that, because those are all at the top of my list, and I'm working on those. So yeah, wish me luck. Hopefully you'll see me cheering in college. What helped you the most to get through everything? I'm gonna have to say I had a great support system. I had parents that stayed there with me the entire month. I was never alone in my hospital room to dwell on things. I always had someone to talk to. My faith in God was huge during this time. Like, it grew exponentially from the time I was admitted into the hospital. I just realized how quickly saying a prayer or singing a worship song or just trusting in God, just saying, okay, God, I trust in you, I realized how helpful that was for me. And on top of that, I had support from my cheer teammates at Champion. They were amazing. Most of them visited me. All of them sent gifts and cards and text. Like, I always had messages to look at on my phone when I didn't want to think about things, and people were telling me that I had this and that I had a future ahead of me, and that was amazing. My church was awesome. My school cheer was awesome. I got flowers and visitors from everyone. It was just amazing. Like, I could have never believed the amount of support I would get that I did, because I really have some great friends that were out there for me. One is, how did you stay so positive throughout the whole process? Well, I'm gonna be honest, there were times I was not positive at all. I was crying, screaming, throwing fits because I didn't want this to happen. And like, nurses comforted me, my parents comforted me, but I'm gonna say what kept me going the most was my faith in God and His plan for me, and my teammates, and the constant support that I had outside of myself helped me get through it the most. Because without my friends and family and my faith, I would have just crumbled at this. I would have thought, oh, my life is over. But now I know that I can do anything that I wanted to do before, that this doesn't have to change everything for me. So that is the plan, to keep going strong, and I keep myself active. I go to the gym. I'm working on getting stronger, and I hope to be back better than ever. What is your testimony through all of this? So, I have always been a Christian, and I've grown up going to church, praying before I eat and before I go to bed, and so I already had that part of my life, but not nearly as intense as it was when I was going through this and after I left. I remember coming out of one of my bandage changing when I did conscious sedation, and I had recovered pretty poorly from that before, and I was having a lot of pain, I was crying, and my parents and I were just singing worship songs, and it just calmed me down. It didn't make the pain go away, but it calmed me down just to put trust in God. And so I said so many prayers. I prayed with every single one of my nurses, with my doctors before we went into surgery. I have said prayers since then for my doctors and my nurses that I have loved so much. Like, so many of them took time to come back and say a prayer with me after they left, or before they left, or before I had to do something. I had nurses that came and visited me and hung out with me after I had left the ICU, and that was just an incredible blessing to have people just surround me and tell me that God's got me, because I knew He was there. He was there the entire time, and I had so many worship songs that I loved, and I don't think without it I would have had the peace to get through this the way I did. What were some of your favorite songs through this? So I put out something on my story and I asked y'all, I was like, what are your favorite worship songs for when you're going through a rough time? And I created a playlist, a very long playlist that I've listened to too many times to count, for all my worship songs. I'm trying to find it now. One was Whom Shall I Fear? That's one I play with my cheer team a lot before we go out and compete, and it just really fit the moment. Another In the Fire was a good one too, by Hillsong. Let's see, what else do I got? I got a whole list. Like, if you want me to put my entire playlist out there, I will. Trust in You by Lauren Daigle. God Is in This Story by Katie Nicole. In Jesus' Name by Katie Nicole. The Battle Belongs by Phil Wickman. Like, worship music was a big factor in the hospital. And so I'd love to share this if anyone wants my worship playlist. Okay, so that is all the questions I have. I'll probably do another Q&A later on, but I hope you enjoyed, and if you made it this far, please subscribe and comment and like. So I hope you enjoyed it all, and thank you for watching. Big,